All right, next step is to mount the electronics into the double battery box. We have 3 here. The one that's not here yet is the solar charge controller. I'll start upstream. We have the 20 amp Renogy DC to DC charger. This allows the conversion of the higher voltage that's coming from the alternator and the lead acid battery to step that down to what the lithium system can take. So this is 20 amps. It can also be stepped down to 10 amps with a setting on these Renogy units. Then we have the AC to DC charger, which is just shore power. This guy plugs in the standard 110 outlet. This is 15 amps. And then we have the pure sine wave inverter. So this is a 1,000 watt base load, continuous load, 2,000 watt peak. And this thing is downstream of the battery, and it'll power laptops, the standing desks, anything else. I'll put a power strip off of this. So what I have here is an inline GFCI so that I can feel comfortable mounting an entire power strip on the exterior and let it get rained on.
Before we get into the full electronics, I want to talk batteries and the importance of not doing lead acid. Lithium technology, safety, and prices have improved so dramatically that you can't justify the weight and lack of capacity of lead acid anymore. This is footage of me 4 years ago when I assembled cells myself, since this was much cheaper than buying off the shelf. It cost me $600 all in, including a battery management system with Bluetooth. But nowadays you can get the same 280 amp hour battery fully assembled for about $400. With lead acid, even deep cycles permanently degrade when you drop past 50% state of charge, while lithium can be used down to around 20%. And combined with greater energy density, this 50-pound battery weighs the same as one golf cart deep cycle battery, but has 6 to 8 times the usable capacity. Lithium can also tolerate vibrations, being upside down, will not be damaged by fully depleting them, and are rated for over 5,000 full cycles. Lithium iron phosphate specifically is also the safest lithium battery chemistry, as it cannot achieve thermal runaway, which lithium cobalt and others can.
So now I have a wire that was pre-built, probably from an old inverter. I'm gonna stick this on a negative bus, and then this guy will go to the battery. Point is, I'm gonna get them both on now before I secure the inverter to the battery box so that I can do it before this becomes inaccessible. Everything else should be accessible. All of these 2 output, AC outputs, and then the remote on and off, USB charger, etc., power button, those should all be accessible. So I'm just gonna get the probably positive wire on here, and then I can go ahead and rivet this inverter on the battery box. I'd also like to point out that the wiring that comes with the inverter that's meant to go from the battery to the inverter is woefully undersized. This inverter, because it draws 1,000 watts continuous, and shoot, it can surge higher than that. 1,000, that's like 80-ish amps. You can't stick 80 amps through something like this, which is, this is probably 6 to 8 gauge. I have some 4 gauge that I would prefer to use, and even this is still undersized. But for the short enough run that I'm gonna do, I feel comfortable using this, but I do not feel comfortable using what came with the kit. And if you read the manual, it actually explains that you shouldn't use their wiring for heavy loads, which is absolutely ridiculous. We're just gonna make our own battery leads of the exact length we need out of this 4 gauge wiring.
It's important to get the right type of inverter, and first of all, you want to avoid a modified sine wave inverter and go for a pure sine wave. It's better for your equipment in general. And secondly, you want to size it appropriately. If you get something too big, it will tend to have a larger standby current, and that can be a significant draw on your battery system, and you really want to preserve capacity when you're off-road and in the deep woods. So you want to get something that is big enough for realistic loads that you'll be doing, and you should assume that you won't necessarily be drawing your larger loads at the same time. So I sized mine because I bought a cute little water kettle that's 600 watts, and I may have the Starlink on while I use that water kettle, which is another 70 to 100 watts. So that's pushing about 700 total watts, maybe 800 if I'm charging a laptop as well. So going to 1,000 watts made a lot of sense. Also, the larger you go in capacity, the larger the physical size of the unit, and this battery box is very dense, so I don't have a lot of room for larger capacity inverters and other components.
Yeah, all right. I have no idea. Yeah, it fucking worked. Ah, fuck. All right. Ouch. I think that'll hold on the bottom, but I don't want to release the top until I've secured it. Cool. So let's go ahead and drill a hole. Just bang this out. There's barely any material there. Oh. This bulge would be able to fit through the slot if it weren't for the washer. That's why that washer had to be there.
This is the 20 amp DC to DC charger, which charges the lithium system from the tow vehicle's alternator. And it performs two main functions as well, one of them being a battery isolator. So it ensures you're not drawing your starter battery when the vehicle is off. And secondly, it controls the voltage and current, both so it's not sending high voltage to the lithium system, but also so it's not sending unlimited current down the wires that you have going all the way from the tow vehicle back to the trailer. I'm using a little trick here to find the right place to drill holes by heating up a rivet and sticking it through the inside of the box right in the right spot, and then I can see the hole on the outside rather than trying to guess and check where the hole should be. So that's a pretty nifty trick that worked well for this constrained box. It's important to size these appropriately for your alternator. So if you have an alternator rated at 100 amps, that means at peak RPM, it's producing 100 amps. You're gonna wanna size your DC to DC charger much smaller than that, probably around 40 amps. And if you get a 40 amp unit, you can also step that down to 20 amps with a trigger wire here. I have the same functionality. I got a 20 amp unit because I may be towing this with a Samurai, which has an 80 amp alternator, and I can also step this one down to 10 amps.
Now, because airflow is important, I'm gonna put some vents onto this battery box in order for all these electronics not to overheat. So I got these ones here that have a bit of a screen on the inside. Oh, god damn, that looks so good. The inverter is now mounted, the DC to DC charger is mounted, and now the AC to DC charger, I'm gonna stick it down here in the bottom to get it out of the way, mount it down there, and then we move on to the solar charge controller. By the way, I'm mounting this upside down, so the screen's gonna be upside down, but there's nothing on the bottom that needs to be accessed. Not true with this true bottom. This is where I have to be able to access the battery, solar panels, USB charging, I'm not gonna use that, and then temperature sensor. So I need to leave that exposed. So sometimes you have to mount stuff upside down.
An important way of keeping your wiring clean is to run as few wires to the battery as possible. It really should only be 1 or 2 at the most. Everything else should go to bus bars, and then the smaller units, the water pump, the lights, etc., they should all go to their dedicated fuses on a fuse block like this one here. It's really dusty because this one was in the Samurai before.
Oh my god, fucking classic.
This assembly gives me a 12-volt socket, a USB outlet, and 3 switches. I'll probably use the first 2 for the water pump and the overhead lights. This is the 20 amp solar charge controller. This is the MPPT technology, which is better than PWM. These are the battery leads right here. And again, instead of going straight to the battery, we're going to these bus bars. And now we're attaching the fuse block to those same bus bars. Now the temperature sensor on the solar charge controller. And we'll go ahead and load up the fuse block with fuses. These can also serve as backups for other devices or even the tow vehicle. And now let's put the various components here. So we're going to get lighting, we're going to get the diesel heater wiring. These are the control modules that came with the standing desk, and because I don't need to access these, I'm going to glue them up to the top of this battery box. And here's the finished battery box. I'm super happy with this. I think it looks really clean. The controls are accessible. The inverter switch is there. You have outlets, you have other switches. I'm really happy with this.
I unfortunately had to return my other water heater, and I got this new one. The reason why is the pipe threads on the bottom for both the gas and the water inlet, or excuse me, the water outlet, were BSP threads. It proved impossible to find fittings for that. And the reason I wanted to is because the height of the other one was such that I wanted an elbow so that I could get the fittings out the side rather than vertically, so it wouldn't take up as much vertical space. I could not find elbows. And secondly, I want this water heater to power not only a shower, which they all come with, I also want it to power and supply my sink here. So I have this one with both a cold and hot water inlet. And so I needed a T that would go from BSP to two other, MPT or whatever. That proved impossible as well. And so what I've done is I've gotten this one, which the reviews at least say are NPT fittings, which are way more plentiful. So I easily found a T right here, which goes from, I believe, 1/2-inch female NPT to 1/2-inch male NPTs. They each have their own shutoff valve, which is super nice. All this stuff arrived very quickly as well from Amazon. And then just various like hose barbs to go from this into the 1/2-inch hose that I'm using. And then I also got these elbows in case I want to also save on that vertical space. I noticed this unit, or at least the box, seems a lot smaller as well. So I have hope that maybe I don't even need these elbows. They'll restrict the water a tiny bit. But I may end up using these. And then I'm not even sure what I got this one for. We'll find out as we put this all together. So let's crack into this and see if it's what I expect it to be. This trailer only has 18-inch of vertical space, and I'm even considering putting this under the countertop if it can tolerate the heat out the top. I don't know for sure if it will. I kind of doubt it, but either way, I still want it to be no more than flush and certainly not sticking up above the edge of the trailer, just for aesthetics. So this unit is significantly shorter than the other one. Grab a measuring tape here. guy is 12 inches. That's a lot shorter. The other one was, I believe, 14 if you didn't consider the fittings. And then when you consider the fittings with the elbow, I'm gonna estimate they're gonna stick out to about 14. Yeah, the unit looks pretty good. It actually has more controls than the other one. I think it's bizarre that it has winter and summer. I mean, whatever the, okay. Has a min and a max. The other one I noticed, oh man, this is terrible action, but whatever, it doesn't matter. It's all like scratched up and yeah, terrible action, but that's okay. Yeah, min max water, min max temperature. This one is cool. It has this, and this was way cheaper too. The other one was 165. This one was 115. All right, I've got it all figured out. So the water inlet here, I'm gonna use this piece that I bought for the water pump that I didn't need. So that is 1/2 inch female NPT, and I'll point it whichever direction. Then we've got the water outlet. This was where it was tricky because I need it to go into this T. So I'm gonna start with this female NPT 1/2 inch to male 1/2 inch. Put it somewhere like that. Then they actually included this adapter with the water heater, which is awesome. So I'm gonna throw that on there. And that goes from 1/2 inch NPT to 3/4 garden hose thread. Then I'm gonna take this guy, which I believe I already had left over. Gonna screw that on there. No, excuse me. Yes, gonna screw that on there. Then I'll just attach a length of hose that will go out to this guy, and I'll mount this somewhere else. I'll put a hose clamp around it and bind it to something. Then this will go to the shower, which is this guy. Pop that out. That should fit. Let me just confirm that.
By the way, all the braided hose I'm using is 1/2 inch internal diameter. So anytime you see a barb, it's 1/2 inch.
Put that there. Yep, 1/2 inch NPT. You gotta love it. Amazing. And then this other end goes to the faucet, which, let's see, will require a 1/2 inch barb. That's that. Well, that's a little, okay. Yep, the threads are just a little tight. I think that's good. All right, and then the way I'm gonna solve the gas is 1/2 inch NPT, same exact one as this, elbow, female to male. And this guy came with the water heater. It goes 1/2 inch NPT, female, to whatever the heck propane typically is. And they included this propane line here. And then that guy connects here. So I'm super happy. Like that is pretty amazing. Let's see what I got that down to. Got down to a total of, so again, the unit was about 12. I got it down to about 13 3/4. So it's only 1 3/4 inches that these fittings are taking up. And actually this guy is still sticking up a bit. And again, this battery door is now the limiting factor. That sticks up another, it brings it from 12 up to about 16. And I've already tried with the other one. You can't get a D-cell out of here without this door basically 90 degrees open. So that's tall. My solution, which was the same on the other one, is to take both these screws out. This entire unit will pop out. And then I can either mount this battery box somewhere else, just like next to the unit, or there are only 2 wires that go into this guy. I could just get a buck converter off Amazon, which I think I've already ordered. I've ordered so many things I can't keep track, which will convert my 12 to 14, whatever voltage happens to be coming from the lithium system, to anything I want it to be. And so I'll just find out what D-cells are and see whether these are in parallel or series. Then I'll simply mimic that voltage with the buck converter. Then I'll never run out of batteries here, never have to replace them, and I get this bulky unit off the bottom here and get that additional clearance from here.
This is the 5-pound propane tank mount, and I got this one unwelded and unpainted because I sorely need practice. I can't remember, unfortunately, where I got this from, but I'm very happy with the quality, and you can see their logo here.
What I want to use is, I want to take this handle off here and use these bolts as sort of hangers against here. The problem is the nuts aren't welded on the inside, so I actually have to reach in with the pliers, and I had to undo these screws in order to get in there. So it's not going to be a repeatable process. I can't take this on and off and screw it on and off this guy, unfortunately. But what I'm going to do is just build a slot basically in here and allow it to slot down in there, and that'll provide some support as long as it's bolted down somewhere else. There we go.
This is a piece from the standing desk kit that I didn't need. It's nice to reuse things when you can. I built this little switch cover for some of the other settings on the standing desk legs. I don't want to accidentally hit one of the automated height settings on one of the sides and not the other side. So I'm just leaving these two exposed, which simply allow you to press them up or down. This is pretty slick. This is going to be a complete game changer to have warm water out in the middle of the woods, 30 gallons of showers and hot water for dishes. I think it's going to be a blast. Let's turn our attention to the diesel heater for a minute. I've been fascinated by diesel heaters for a while because of their reputation in the boat world as a very economical way to get clean, dry heat in a small and extremely cheap package. This heater cost $80 all in, although there are some parts that I advise changing out, which I'll explain later. For now, we're just going to get this mounted up.
That is cute. Wow. Love it. I face this gauge here toward the back so that I can view it even when the counter's on top. I have these splitters here because one goes to the water heater and one will go to the 2-burner stove.